The use of UPI, the Reserve Bank has proposed to allow the linking of credit cards to the UPI platform. The RBI said this facility will be enabled on Rupay credits.
The Rupay credit cards will be linked to the UPI platform. This will provide additional convenience to the users and enhance the scope of digital payments.
RBI is giving a major push to the digitization agenda by announcing a series of measures that are going to further boost digital adoption, and the big one is linking UPI with credit cards.
UPI has become the most inclusive mode of payment in India with over 26 crore unique users and 5 crore merchants on the platform.
Hi everybody, on 8th of June 2022, the Reserve Bank of India officially allowed the users to link their credit cards to all UPI platforms, which means within some days, if you own a Rupay credit card and a mobile phone, you could make your credit card transactions through a UPI app without using your credit card at all. And as soon as this announcement happened, it became such a sensation that every single news channel, every single newspaper started lauding the NPCI about how revolutionary this move is. And this move is so big that on one hand it could redefine the entire credit market of India. On the other side, it is a big threat to even giant companies like Visa and Mastercard. The question is, why is the credit card linking to the UPI system such a revolution for the people of India? How will it change the lives of ordinary people like you, me, and thousands of small businesses all across the country? And most importantly, why is it yet another lethal threat to giant companies like Visa and Mastercard? To understand this, we first have to understand how the card payment ecosystem operates in the first place. Now people, I had already explained this flowchart in the Rupay episode about 3 months back. So if you remember this complex flowchart, then please skip to this timestamp. And for those who don't, here's a very simple explanation about how does your credit card system work in the first place. Let's say I have an HDFC Visa card with 1 lakh rupees of credit limit, and Alan Polly is a clothing merchant with her account in ICICI. This makes HDFC the issuing bank and ICICI the acquiring bank. And this is how the transaction between us gets executed in the backend. When I enter my HDFC card details to make a 10,000 rupees payment, the website captures my card information and transmits it to the merchant's payment gateway, which is Razorpay. Here, the value add of Razorpay is that it will help the merchants receive payments from different sources like credit card, debit card, and UPI. And since I'm making a credit card transaction, Razorpay will collect my card information and the transaction amount and passes it on to the merchant's bank, which in this case is ICICI. From then onwards, ICICI will capture the transaction and forward the information to my credit card network, which is Visa. This is where Visa routes the transaction to my bank, which is HDFC, and requests for an approval. So basically, Visa is asking HDFC system whether I have enough funds and what is the status of my account. So let's say my card is blocked, then this transaction will be declined. If I do not have enough credit limit, then again, this transaction will be declined. Similarly, if it's a debit card and I do not have enough balance, then this transaction will be declined. And if everything is alright, and if I have the required credit limit to carry out the transaction, then this transaction is authorized. This approval process is known as authorization. After that, HDFC sends the response back to Visa, wherein HDFC says everything is perfect and assigns and transmits an authorization code along with its response. And this way, 10,000 rupees is put on hold from my HDFC account. Then, Visa sends this approval to the merchant's payment processor, which is Razorpay, who in turn sends the approval to the acquiring bank, that is ICICI. ICICI then routes the approval code to the merchant's terminal, and depending on the merchant or the transaction type, the merchant's terminal prints a receipt for the customer to sign. So if it's a website, you will see a digital receipt. If it's a swipe machine, you will get a receipt printed. This is how the transaction is processed. Now we come to the business part of the process. To carry out this transaction, the issuing bank or the customer's bank and the credit card network charge their fees together, which accounts for 3%, which is 300 rupees. And this percentage could range anywhere between 1 to 3%. In this case, considering 3% fees on 10,000 rupees, 300 rupees is deducted and 9,700 rupees is transferred to the merchant's account. And this transaction fee is known as MDR or Merchant Discount Rate. Apart from that, Razorpay will levy a charge of 0.5%, which will eventually give the merchant 9,650 rupees. This is how the payment ecosystem works together to process our transactions. It's just that for debit cards, there are two simple differences. Instead of credit limit, the amount gets deducted directly from your bank account. So, the repayment process is eliminated. And secondly, the MDR for credit card is way more than debit cards. So while debit card MDRs are capped at 0.9%, for credit cards the MDR is typically 1 to 3%. Now listen to this very carefully, people. This MDR now is split into two variables. The first variable is something called interchange fee and the second is something called switching fee. In this case, if you see, the issuing bank is actually taking a risk by paying 10,000 rupees to the vendor on your behalf. As a result, the issuing bank needs to be paid for providing the value of de-risking. This is the reason why the customer's bank charges the merchant's bank a fee, and this fee is called as the interchange fee. Secondly, to carry out this transaction, Visa is also spending an exorbitant amount of money to maintain this humongous infrastructure to make sure that this payment is carried out without any hassles. So, Visa also charges a fee to the customer's bank because it is enabling its customers to make a transaction. This fee is called as the switching fee. So MDR is not some random deduction but a very important payment made for an important value adding processes that are carried out by the customer's bank and the card network, which in this case is Visa. And both these fees are deducted from the merchant's revenue as merchant discount rate. And this is where, ladies and gentlemen, the major concern of the financial players of India comes in.
The discussion around the MDR or the merchant discount rate is heating up again with the finance minister having announced last month that the merchant discount rate will not be applicable for UPI as well as Rupay related transactions.
Those modes which are getting notified will not have charges under the MDR being levied on them.
Now, having a zero MDR charge was a long-standing demand of the Payment Council of India.
Now, if you remember from our Rupay episode, the government of India boldly stated that there will be zero MDR for Rupay debit cards and UPI transactions. So if you pay 1,000 rupees from your Rupay debit card, the seller will receive 1,000 rupees without any deductions of MDR. And to compensate for the losses incurred by the banks, in 2021, the government put out 1,300 crores for a period of 1 year to compensate for all the losses incurred by the banks in this process. But now that UPI is going to be linked with credit cards, everybody is afraid that RBI might impose zero MDR for credit card transactions also. So the question over here is, this is such a great step, right? Merchants will be able to make money without any deductions and the customers will go more cashless. And if this is already being done for debit cards, what's wrong with doing it with credit cards? Well, ladies and gentlemen, there are three important reasons for that. Number one, when you make a debit card transaction, your bank does not take a risk by paying the shopkeeper on your behalf because the money is just being transferred from your account to the merchant's account. So the money already exists. But when it comes to zero MDR for credit cards, your bank takes a risk by paying your bill to the shopkeeper on your behalf with the hope that you would pay it back. But if Rupay credit cards start incurring zero MDR, then either the banks will not be rewarded for their credit risk or the government again has to pay a very hefty amount to compensate for their losses. Secondly, if Rupay incurs zero MDR and Visa and Mastercard incur 2.5% MDR, then automatically the shopkeepers will stop accepting Visa and Mastercard. So their market will collapse. And this is like nationalizing the card network market of India. And thirdly, this zero MDR is great for debit cards, but it could be a disaster for credit cards. The question is, why is that? Well, if you look at this chart, you will see that there were nearly 92 crore debit cards in India, while there were only 7.4 credit cards in India. But if you look at the value of payments made via debit cards and credit cards in the same month, you will see that while the value of debit card payments stands at 64,000 crores, during the same month, the value of payments from credit cards, which is 84 crore units lesser than debit cards, is still way ahead at 1.07 lakh crores. Secondly, if you look at the average spending of a credit card user versus a debit card user, you will see that while an average debit card user spends 700 rupees per card per month, an average credit card user spends 14,500 rupees per month per card. And this tells you very, very clearly that the people owning a credit card are way richer and earn a significant amount of income more as compared to a majority of debit card owners. And obviously, the places where credit card users and debit card users use their cards will also vary vastly. Now, mind you, I am not saying that debit card owners are poor. I am just saying that a major chunk of debit card owners have less spending capacity as compared to a major chunk of credit card owners. Therefore, when you say zero MDR for debit cards, it's a wonderful step towards financial inclusion, cashless economy, and digitalization because it's more likely to be used in villages, towns, and for small businesses. But if zero MDR is applied for credit cards, we could be ripping off a valuable source of income from Mastercard and Visa. And this money is mostly coming from the richer class of India and is also going to the rich businesses who do not mind paying an MDR. And if this is done, Visa and Mastercard will have no incentive whatsoever to operate in India. And soon enough, if they quit India, two things will happen. Number one, the government will have to take the entire load of compensating for the losses incurred by the banks, which is going to be enormous. And secondly, the government's card network will become a monopoly. So tomorrow, if the ruling party changes and they decide to run it like a typical government company, we all know what could happen with UPI. This is the reason why people are hoping that either the government imposes MDR as usual or imposes zero MDR for a limited amount of transaction like 1000 rupees or less so that the lower economic strata can benefit without killing the income of Visa and Mastercard, which are making money from mostly premium customers. These are the concerns of the merchant discount rate and the linking of credit cards to UPI. And this brings me to the most exciting part of the episode, and that are the incredible advantages that this linking will bring for the businesses, for the economy, and most importantly for the people of India. Meanwhile, if you're someone who does not like doing deep market research while investing into the stock market, you could make your investments through Smallcase. Smallcase is this wonderful company that helps you make the most strategic investments into the stock market by creating a basket of stocks of the best companies in a particular sector. In this case, considering the volatile conditions of the market right now, if you want to make safe investments into the stock market, you could invest into the all-weather Smallcase. And the best part is that the Smallcase manager himself will automatically rebalance the stocks as per the market conditions to give you the best returns possible. This way, you can rest easy without spending your time into doing research. And even if you do not want to make any investments, you could use my favorite feature in this app, and that is the news section and the newsletters to get the latest updates about the most important happenings in the market. So if you love that idea, download the Smallcase app from the link in the description. Moving on, here are the most incredible advantages that the credit card linking of UPI could bring for the people of India. Firstly, from the business standpoint, right now there are only 6 million card accepting point of sale machines in India, whereas there are 50 million merchants accepting UPI payments. So you see, the scope of using a credit card will explode by 45 million merchants just because of this UPI linking to credit cards. Secondly, if the government introduces microfinance credit line based on UPI, that would be absolutely crazy. For instance, the government might start with 500 rupees credit for people like Raju, who's a daily wage worker. Then after he repays this small amount, it might extend to 1000 rupees to 2000 rupees and so on. So as the credit worthiness of an individual increases, the government could keep on increasing the line of credit. And after a certain cap of say 10,000 rupees, Raju could use his credit history to get bigger loans from SBI. This way, the government could take financial inclusion to a whole new level in India. And from our Bangladesh episode, we already know the power of microfinance. Thirdly, did you know that handling, accounting and minting of cash actually cost the economy of our country 2% of our entire GDP? That's about 2.7 lakh crore rupees. Now that's a lot of money to manage money. So even if a fraction of this cash goes digital, it's going to be an incredible opportunity for the government of India. And combine that with direct benefit schemes, credit line and e-Rupee, the possibilities are endless for India. That's all from my side for today, guys. If you learned something valuable, please make sure to hit the like button in order to make YouTube Baba happy. And for more such insightful business and political case studies, please subscribe to our channel. Thank you so much for watching. I will see you in the next one. Bye bye.